Well, horror games have been a charm for me. If I had to pick between which genre I would like to play in the video game world, well, while I like my platformers, while I like my first person shooters, RTSs, and I don't mind RPGs, I'm not really crazy about the standard RPGs, but I'll play them. I prefer the ones where you move around. Horror is probably got to be my favorite in the video game industry because they're so unique that you could play around with them. You could, I don't know, be creative. That's literally what happened back in the 90s and 2000s. One of those series was Fatal Frame, a very unique game series when it comes to horror. Boy, have we gone on a long journey with this series. From its start in 2001 all the way until 2014. This is literally the most unique horror series that I have ever seen, where you have to use a camera to fight off ghosts. We've seen it progress through something bigger and better. From the first one being, well, you know, the first, and then Fatal Frame 2 vamping it up a bit, and then 3 combining all of that into 1. And then of course 4 took us more on a Resident Evil 4 type camera angle, which this was the start of the change for Fatal Frame, was the 4th one, with how the camera position is. Ditching the old classic fixed camera angles, we are now into the modern age of, well, modern horror games. For the best or for the worst. So with Fatal Frame 4 being the first to actually do this in 2008, we wouldn't get a new Fatal Frame game until 2014 with Maiden of Blackwater. Pretty much the final conclusion on the series, as there has not been a release of anything else from this franchise as of yet. Maybe when you're watching this in the future, maybe they have released a new one. Who knows? But I can say, would I think this is going to be just as good as the previous other Fatal Frame games? I will say some do have their cons, but overall, I can look past those minor cons. They are all really good games. Really great ones at that. But does this new one actually hold up to the previous 4? And whether or not it succeeds? Well, that's the thing. With this one, I have 2 versions. The Wii U version, which I don't think you can get anymore, and the PS4 version, which was a re-release. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a new Pop Culture Talk episode where we're diving into the final, as of now, final Fatal Frame game in the series. Do I think it's good, or is it better than the others? Is it worth your time? Well, that's why you're here. I have my camera obscure. This time I am prepared. I am not going to let a ghost interfere with my review again. So, without further ado, let's dive into Fatal Frame. Maiden of Blackwater. Let's go! So, the story pretty much follows new characters. We start off with a girl named Miyu in the prologue. After that, though, we play as Yuri, and someone looking after her and teaching her the camera obscure, Hisoka, who is also related to Rei from the 3rd game, though there's really no mention of that, sadly. Anyway, she tests out the camera obscure, learning the ways of the power of the Force. Sorry, I had to say that. Anyways, later Hisoka goes to the mountain, but she doesn't come back. Someone who has lost a friend of theirs comes to the shop where Yuri is still watching over the place, decides to go to the mountain to find the girl who decided to go to the mountain herself, who lost her friend. And that is pretty much when this whole thing truly begins, as the mountain is cursed with death, evil spirits like poltergeists, and even the past residents of the Shrine Maidens. But you don't just play as Yuri, you play as other characters like Miyu, and of course Rin. Rin is an author and a friend of Yuri, who decides to go on an adventure up the cursed mountain just to do some research for his book. And Miyu has reasons for being up in the mountain to look for her mother, which the mother is the first Fatal Frame protagonist, Miku. Both of the stories will follow different paths as they fight their way through this mountain. On top of that, they go back and forth between them going up and back to the shop. Yuri will try her best to find Hisoka, but of course dealing with the haunted mountain, a place where people end their lives. And Rin has different past visions of either a kid or a young man who came up with the camera obscure, and this beautiful woman. And of course, Miyu looking for her mom. So overall, the story it's decent, but at this point, we've kind of been there, done that with traditions gone haywire, curse causing mayhem, and ghosts and poltergeists just lingering around. Yeah, we've already been there and done that. However, I do like the fact that they kind of mix it up a bit with the areas, like some places have like construction sites that have been abandoned to some water spring or some building that's been abandoned. But then, of course, you do get the mixture of the Japanese mansion houses type style. So overall, the story is fine. But however, there is one crazy iffy thing. Well, actually, not iffy. It's very... when it comes to a Pacific character. Me. When I told my friend about this, he almost tripped. However, if you don't want to know, skip this number because it is a spoiler warning, because it does have to do with at least her plot in the game. If you don't want to know and want to go in blind and be shocked, then okay. But if you rather listen, well, here you go. This is your warning to skip now. You gone? Or are you staying? All right. So Miyu, she is the daughter of Miku. Miku is the original protagonist from the first game and also one of the main characters in the third game. Of course, she is the original character of this entire franchise. But what they did with her character in this game is like, what? Okay, so you're kind of thinking, well, who did she hook up with and had this daughter? You would not believe this, but it is hinted because in the third game, well, spoiler for that too, if you haven't played it, but you know, you're in the spoiler section. In the third game, she's trapped in the dream world to chase after her brother. It is hinted that she got pregnant in that dream world, possibly by the brother. It is very likely that is what happened. And of course, one of the worst things that they did with her character is how she wanted to go up to the mountain, which is a very bad spot for people that want to end themselves. But she really loves her brother, but she abandoned her daughter? What the hell did you do to Miku? So yeah, Miyu's story is just a complete mess. It really is a complete mess. You took this character from the first game and the third game, and what do? You make this mess? I'm alright with playing Miyu's parts, they're fine, but knowing that, it's like, no. But besides that, the other two character stories are fine. They're fine. I enjoyed them. The gameplay mechanics are pretty simple. If you've played the fourth Fatal Frame game and maybe the remake of the second game, it's going to be very similar to those, except a little more vamped. Atmosphere is pretty good for a haunted mountain. On the one hand though, the ghosts are pretty creepy, mainly the ones that have drowned. Of course, there are different versions of Fatal Frame made in a black water. The first one would be the Wii U version, which allows you to use the gamepad as a camera while you fight the ghosts. On the other hand, all other console releases from the PlayStation to the Xbox and Nintendo Switch, they ditched that Wii U gamepad for more of the typical aiming and firing your camera. Overall, the gameplay mechanics are fine. I will say the one thing that they did bring back is when you're bending down to pick up an item, and there is a 50% chance that a ghost might grab you. That returns. Love it or hate it, it is here. On the other hand, there is a different gameplay mechanic, and it's getting wet. If you get wet, you have a higher chance of ghosts grabbing your hand, or just more ghosts coming after you. Apparently the mountain and the wetness of the mountain when it comes to the rain lures more ghosts in. So the water has a lot to do with this game. Every other Fatal Frame had some sort of theme to it. For one, just a rope ritual. The other, twins. The other, in a nightmare like Nightmare on Elm Street. And then of course the fourth one had to do with illness, disease. This one has to do with water. But yeah, it does have a role in the gameplay. And overall, the gameplay is fine. Mechanic-wise is fine. Using the camera obscure is fine. And of course, upgrading it. Using the items. Same deal as the other previous ones. I will say you get a lot more items in this game. Which, if you want a challenge, then, well... So I don't know if that defeats the challenge or the fact that you have a lot of inventory. I will say totally different when it comes to using the Wii U gamepad compared to the other console versions where they just ditched that. So yeah, definitely different feels of how you play the game. And of course you do need to go around either backtracking in the same locations over and over and over. This happens pretty much a lot in this game. When you do have a break from the same place that you have to keep going to, go back to the mountain. However, the shop level is very interesting as you play as Rin and you have to watch over the others as they sleep. You use a sort of security type camera to watch and see if ghosts are coming into the shop, which they are. And you have to get up from your monitor to go fight the ghosts and then go back to the monitor to watch for more of the ghosts coming in through the shop door or anywhere else in the shop. So those levels are actually pretty fun. The fact that you have to keep getting up and looking at the security camera to make sure that, well, there's no more ghosts, but of course they're going to keep coming until the mission is over. So yeah, those are interesting levels. However, it does get a little confusing when you have to just travel around, but you do want to explore just to find items. So at least it rewards you with that aspect. And when you do travel in different locations, some places will be new or different. But of course, when you start off again to go back to the mountain, you're right back at the beginning. And of course, they do skip a lot of traversing when you go into the mountain. So that really does save you time, which I'm glad they do because that would have been kind of annoying. And the combat with the ghosts are different here. So while the typical fight and exercise them is the same, when they grab you, you have to use your camera obscure to get them off of you, which is a new gameplay mechanic here. And this also goes for the bosses too. So I think it was a nice feature. I also will mention there is 2 different endings. I got both the first time, and then when I replayed it again on the PS4 version, of course I got the good ending because I know what I'm doing. I'm a veteran to this now. After you have beaten the campaign mode, you unlock a side mode. And this side mode has Anye, or Aine? Yeah, this character from Dead or Alive. So wait, does that mean they're in the same universe? Yeah, it's a fun side mission. It's not that long, but it's fun for the time. Except her gameplay mechanic is extremely different from the main campaign. You don't have a camera, but you have a different weapon to use. And you can't really fight ghosts. You're pretty much sneaking by them and trying to avoid ghosts at all costs. If you start running or getting too close to the ghosts, they're going to spot you like in Metal Gear Solid. Though if she is caught, she has a special item to stun the ghost and make her escape. While not long, I thought that was a pretty neat crossover. I think a very cool crossover had to be with Yuri showing up in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which brings the horror franchise into Super Smash Bros. With so many other video game genres, which is great. Graphically, it's fine. It did come out on the Wii U first before upgrading to the Switch and PlayStation or Xbox versions. I'm not sure if you could get the Wii U version today since Nintendo shut down the Wii U online service. So, unfortunately, I might be one of those, maybe one out of a few that got the game. So yeah, it's pretty unique holding the gamepad to take the photos and stuff, which is pretty cool. But of course, they ditched that on the other versions, the re-release. So, I mean, overall, the story is fine. It's just the Miyu part is kind of, not great. Not great with that writing there. So yeah, that is a big gripe. The gameplay and stuff is fine. Story-wise, it's fine, except for Miyu's parts. I will say the voice acting is a hit or miss. It's okay, not great. I mean, I still listen to it, because I'd rather see what's going on screen than usually reading subtitles. Either way, new faces, new ghosts to fight, even the bosses, and different places to explore, but while decent and fun, I wouldn't say it's high level like, well, Resident Evil 4 remake. I mean, that was a beast. I think the one thing that this game is missing is actually a mission mode. While the others had mission modes, this one does not, which is quite surprising. So yeah, while we don't have mission mode, we have the Anya one, or Anya, the girl from Dead or Alive, you know what I mean. I will say in the Wii U version, you could unlock Nintendo costumes, which is cool, but of course with the re-release, no, which is quite sad. So yeah, two different versions. Nintendo costumes in Fatal Frame, Maiden of Blackwater, while the other consoles, including the re-release on Nintendo Switch, absent. So, like, don't get me wrong. I did enjoy this game. I did enjoy the story for what it is, but we've been there, done that with the curses and stuff, Japanese culture and just, yeah, curses. And Miyu's part is just, ugh, not good. I'm like, what the heck did you do to Miku? Seriously. Well, Fatal Frame, Maiden of Blackwater. Is it worth your time? I'd say if you are a fan of this franchise, then you will like the game. You just got to be prepared for the fact, well, it's just kind of the same old, just a more upgraded experience for the newer consoles. Well, at the time, like Wii U, and then now on the other new consoles. But how I would rate this, it's really tough because while I enjoyed it, I also know some of the cons. And overall, I would say good, but it has issues. Mainly that Miku thing. Ugh. But if you like the others, you will like this. It is good. It is worth your time if you like these sort of horror games. But just expect not to get like a big, like, you know, ooh, like this is a great, and like, no. It's, my big gripe is just that whole thing with Miku. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like what you saw here, follow me wherever you're watching, and I will hope to see you again in the next episode. Especially when it comes to my favorite part of the season, horror months. And so far, I have not seen any ghosts in this episode, so I might have been lucky this time. And